All right, well, welcome to English 101 Rhetoric 1, Week 11. For our rhetoric and writing video, we're going to talk about two things, and I want to just ask you to do two things this week. One is what's called an argument analysis, and the other I'm calling Thesis Storm. It's a brainstorming activity to try to come up with ideas, a group brainstorming activity for your thesis. And for both these, we're going to be using the discussion boards in Blackboard Week 11, so you'll be able to find these once you watch this video. And I just want to go through this and explain how to do this. This is something that I hope, since we're only writing one draft of Essay 5, it'll give you a lot of time to think about the topic, make sure you have a good, strong thesis statement. And if you have that, and you have some ideas for how to support it as well, you should be well on your way to writing Essay number 5. So let's talk about that just for a little bit. Okay, the first thing I'm going to ask you to do again is what's called an argument analysis. And to do this, I'd like you to use two different sources of information that you have as a Morton College student. One of those is the New York Times, because again, I'm not biased this paper. I mean, I do, it's a great newspaper, but I mean, there's lots of papers we could use, but this is one that the college you have access to. As a Morton College student, you have access for free. So the first thing you'll have to do is if you're watching this video, you should be able to follow this link, but I'm going to show you a couple of other ways that you can get into the New York Times. And the other thing is the library databases. And so both of those are accessible. I'm going to show you through the library, the college library's webpage. The reason I'm asking you to look at these two sites is because I want you to find an article that expresses a strong opinion on something. And so and then we're going to analyze that argument with some of the tools that we've looked at throughout the semester. These are the questions I'm going to ask you to answer, so you may want to come back to these. Also, these are posted, they should be posted in Blackboard. I'll double check that. What's the topic and who's the author's target audience? So basically trying to figure out what they're writing about, and very specifically. So that might be a health-related topic, but what is it? And also with these, I'd like you to try to search topics to find your article that are somehow related to your essay. So if you want to search for infant mortality, maternal mortality, health insurance, health care, different search things like that. So you'll get something to do with the idea of access to care. And think about that, but I'd like you to try to find that and answer these questions. What's their claim? Do they have a position or opinion on the topic? Do they use ethos, pathos, or logos? Remember, these are the three major appeals that we've talked about. Do you see them using ethos as you can go back and review these in previous videos or handouts, pardon me. But ethos, as you probably remember, has to do with if you trust someone, if you believe them, and so it's credibility really, right? Pathos is emotion, and logos is, I think of it as just good reasons. You could think of it like logical, but I think of it as providing good, maybe logical reasons. What sources? Does the writer quote anyone in their article or quote like a study? I'm going to show you an example of this in just a minute, so hopefully it'll be very clear. Does the writer use any methods of persuasion? Remember, I've focused on 5. I tend to share these 5 methods of persuasion because I think they're just very easy to learn and easy to notice and good tools to use. So any of those 5 methods, remember we talked about facts and we've talked about examples, and we've talked about predicting the consequences of something. We've talked about answering an authority when you disagree with somebody and you try to give an answer to that. And then also referring to an authority where you quote someone. So what I'd like you to do is, answer these questions, write those up. This part you don't have to do. We're not in a face-to-face class, so we're not going to do a presentation, but I'm going to ask you to post your findings in the argument analysis discussion board that I've set up. So basically your findings are the answers to these questions, and it's given an analysis of this article. You may decide to use this for your paper. That would be great if you do. If you don't, that's all right too, but at least you'll have another idea of another perspective on this topic. Now, if you go back to week 5, there should be an article posted on prenatal care. So you could also go back and look at that, and I got that from one of the databases that I'm going to show you in just a moment. So again, to access these, you want to go to the Morton College. So if you go to Morton College's main web page and you go to Campus Services, click on that, you're going to see a ton of stuff pop up, and one of them is the Morton College Library. Click on that and you'll find this page, the main page of the library. Then you want to scroll down, and what you'll come down to is near the bottom, you'll see a place that says Useful Links. And you can see both of the two I'm asking you to look at are right here on the Useful Links page. The first one is Morton College Library's databases. This is where, this is a collection of resources. I think I've said before, you have access to this because you're a tuition paying Morton College student. I have access because I'm a professor. But if we didn't, you could be living right across the street from the college and not have access to this because it's behind a paywall, basically, that your password gets you through. So it's lots of information, lots of stuff that not everybody has access to. So I want us to use this. This is not a research paper. Let me just stress that. I'm just asking you to get multiple perspectives on this issue. And so some of that's going to come from reading this article. Also, if you go back and look at the short story, because remember, the short story we had doesn't really deal with access to care, but it deals with a couple, Shukumar and Shoba. If you remember this story, it's called A Temporary Matter. They're dealing with the loss of a child. So that's one more perspective on, prenatal care or situations, dealing with when you have difficulties with pregnancy like they did. And then also you can access the New York Times here. If you click on that, it'll give you instructions how to access the New York Times as a Morton College student. If you haven't ever done this before, if you have trouble, let me know. But it's basically just you need to use your Morton College email. You'll also have to search for Morton College. You want to be there at the college because there's tons and tons of colleges listed that have access to the New York Times as students. But you want to find Morton College, and then you want to put your Morton College email address, and that should set you up. If you have any trouble, really the best thing to do if you have trouble with this is to contact the help desk or to contact the library directly. But again, another way to get into this, if you want to get to the databases, is just to keep scrolling down to these orange boxes, and you can just click on databases, and then you can do by title. So either way, you can go to these links that are at the near the bottom of the page, or you can keep scrolling and you can find these, and you can find the databases. You won't find the New York Times here. Might be under one of the databases, but you will find the database. So again, you have the databases, you have the New York Times. I'm asking you to just find one article. If you go into the New York Times, what I would recommend, because you're looking for an argument, is that you go to the opinion section. So once you get into the paper, you're going to see across the top a lot of headings, I guess, or links you can click on, right? And one of those is opinion. I also would recommend the cooking one too, but that's a whole other side issue. And there's one on movies and travel. World news can be kind of depressing, but some of those other ones are pretty interesting to me. But anyway, so once you get in there, look at opinion, and I'd like you to do an opinion piece, but search the opinion section with your topic in mind, like healthcare or whatever it might be. So, so again, you're going to try to find this one article, and then you're going to analyze that article. When you get into if you click on the databases, this previous one, right, this orange box says databases by title, you're going to see this list. The best one to click on, I think, to find controversial topics and issues is down here near the bottom on the left side. You just click on this link, issues and topics. Then again, you can search in there for your healthcare related topic, access to care, prenatal care, whatever it might be. And there's all kinds of ways you can approach this. Like I said, somebody was talking yesterday about helping expectant mothers or postpartum, after delivery, how they deal with sometimes what is called postpartum depression. So even mental health care can be a part of this, but we're looking at what role the government should play in providing health care to expectant mothers, especially prenatal care. So it's a pretty specific topic. We read a short story about it. We do have back in week 5, I think, there's a reading that we did on prenatal care. And then I'd like you to find one more article. Once you find that article, now this is going to take a couple of minutes, so this is the longer video this week, I know, but I want to go through this really quickly and just talk about how you might analyze an article as an argument analysis. You're looking for the argument. In other words, you're not really sort of trying to summarize the article, but just trying to find their argument. This is an article that I pulled off the New York Times site on October 14th of 2022. And it's How to Make Experimental Treatment Less of a Gamble. It was written by Allison Bateman House. So that's the title of the article. And what I did first is I looked for what's the topic? What is she actually really writing about? And what I found in paragraph 2 of this is she's writing about programs that speed up access to new medical products. So you can imagine, for example, recently this has become more of an issue because things like the vaccine for COVID that were approved very quickly, very rapidly, some people were concerned about the safety of that. And so what's the process? And she's concerned that process, well, anyway, that's the topic she's writing about, right? We'll just stick to each question, right? So the first question you want to answer in your analysis is what's the topic they're writing about? Try to be as specific as you can because it's not usually just healthcare or this one would be, access to new medical products, but it's the programs that speed up access to new medical products. Then I'd like you to try to find out what's their claim. Do they have an opinion? They must have some opinion. And if you look on the opinion page, that's why this is a lot easier on the New York Times if you use the opinion page, or if you in the databases if you use those ones that are related to issues. You'll probably find these easier. So it's clear that a better process for approving experimental drugs is needed. That's in paragraph 13. Way down toward the bottom of the article, she finally explains, or maybe toward the middle of it, she explains what she's asking. And she wants a better process, a safer process for approving experimental drugs when you have to do it really quickly. So that's what she argues for. That's her claim. That's her topic. And then does she use these ethos, pathos, logos, these major appeals? Yes. She says, as a bioethicist, I'm not sure what that is 100%, but I think it's somebody who deals with something to do with our body or biology and ethics, right? So she must have something to do with patients' rights and how patients are treated and medications and things. So she uses her own background, her own title, and her own work experience to support her argument. She's basically saying, hey, I'm a bioethicist, so I know something about doing things that are ethical for patients' rights and things like that. So she uses ethos. Does she use pathos, emotion? I think she does. I think when you start talking about unsafe medical products and having a time when drugs are not sufficiently regulated. In other words, if I go into Walgreens and pick up something, or CVS, I want to be pretty sure that it's not going to kill me, right? I mean, it's kind of like buying a steak at the grocery store, and you want it not to be rotten. That's why we have regulation, right? And so she's using a little bit of pathos here. I think that's fairly emotional. For me, when I read that, I'm like, yeah, that's kind of scary. I don't want to buy something and I'm sick and I get sicker by taking the medicine. But anyway, this is pathos. She's using pathos. I found that in paragraph 6 of the article. And in paragraph 14, I found a little bit of logos. There's a bill that would require drug companies to enter into an agreement with the FDA on how the follow-up studies will be conducted. So they need to have studies after a drug's approved to make sure it's still safe. And if it's not, you want to have a process for pulling that off the shelves. And according to her, right now, that's not really in place. It's not effective. And she thinks that should be, this bill should be approved by the Senate and the House, so that the Congress, so that we can make drugs safer. So she's using good logical argument, like, we need to approve this bill, and that will make, if we do, that will make it safer, because the drugs that are on the market will be taken off if they prove to be unsafe. Finally, does she use any sources? Yes, she, the author of this article, she drew on a report from 2022 from the Department of Health and Human Services Office of the Inspector General, and she quotes that in paragraph 11. Finally, any methods of persuasion? She uses answering the opposition. She probably uses others but I found this one very clear. She's basically saying, I know people on an emotional level. I understand when it comes to your body and your life, you should be able to assume whatever risk you want. So basically, you're very sick and you're willing to just take some experimental drug. That should be your business, she says. She understands that on an emotional level. And this is what answering the opposition does, right? You acknowledge somebody's opinion, different from your own, and then you try to kind of disprove it, right? Or give an answer to it. But such regulatory flexibility, that's a nice way of saying it, like not having strict regulations, right, can provide relief in a crisis, but its use should be exceptional. So we shouldn't be doing that all the time. So she kind of gives a little bit, but then in the end, she still says we need to have stricter rules for drugs being approved and a really better process. It's not the best process. So that's her argument. And that's what I'd like you to do. You don't have to write as much as I did, but I'd just like you to try to answer each of these questions and then post them, in Blackboard. And there's a place there under argument analysis that you can do that. And that gives us all, if we look at the other people's posts, we get a good sense of the kinds of arguments that are out there. So we get exposure to a wide range of topics. Hopefully people are choosing different types of articles. And so if you'll read the other people's, this I know we don't always do this probably, but if you will take a look at the other people who are posting what they're posting, you might get some good ideas for your paper. And that's kind of the idea here. We're sharing a lot of ideas, giving you a wide range of opinions before you really get into writing essay number 5. Okay, the other thing we're going to do this week is what I call Thesis Storm. This is much simpler, I think, but it's also being done through the discussion board. So what I'd like you to do is, again, keep thinking about your topic. It's probably better if you do the argument analysis first, so you have all these ideas sort of percolating around, and then think about your thesis and write what I would call a working thesis. In other words, it's your best idea right now, but it could definitely change. So your thesis at minimum is going to have your subject and your opinion. So what topic are you writing about? Just like we looked at in the argument analysis. And what do you want to say about it? What's your opinion about that? And remember, we're focused on these healthcare related topics, especially related to access to care for expectant mothers. What's your opinion? So write that working thesis in the discussion board. Now, the way I've set this up, we'll hope it works. Blackboard is, I have to admit, sometimes I'm not happy about the way Blackboard works. It has some kinks, and then some of the things I just don't maybe know how to do. So we're gonna hope. I'm crossing my fingers here and hoping. I mean, that's bad luck on Halloween or something. I don't know, but I'm hoping that this will work out for us perfectly and seamlessly, and you'll have two partners, and you'll automatically be able to see their posts. And what I'd like you to do is read their thesis and then give them an idea. How could they support that thesis? Like if you were writing a paper, how would you do it? And try to be as specific as you can when you respond to them or reply to their post. Like if I were writing about this, I might say, and maybe think of facts you could use and be as specific as possible. Can you find facts about how many expectant mothers suffer from depression, right? Or can you find facts about or can you predict the consequences? Or can you answer the opposition? Oh, we don't have enough money to pay for antidepressant or any kind of treatment like counselors or something for expectant mothers. There's just no money. However, even though people feel that way, in the long run, it's going to save us money, and et cetera. So these are, just try to give them ideas. How can they support their thesis? And that's our Thesis Storm. We're not doing a full-blown regular peer response this time around. We're just going to give feedback on the thesis. So this is worth more points than our normal posting for like our weekly reading summaries, because it's more like a peer response. So think about it, and if you can, respond to both people, hopefully in your group. And if this is not working in Blackboard, please send me an email, let me know, but hopefully it'll work out for everybody. And that is all I have. So thanks for, hopefully if you got to the end of this, I appreciate it. And again, the two things we're doing is our argument analysis and our Thesis Storm this week.